We've got Paige, Layup, Terrafell, Rabbit, Catyo, Loritz, Tiger Lily, Scott Miller, Adenadwana, Thoakenham, Potru, Caver, and Cave Woman. And Adenadwana is a newcomer to Story Night. Tonight's story is brought to you in part by MissLore.com for some of the history, DPWR.net for the Denis dates, UruArchives.com for the surface history corresponding to the Denis dates, and the Cavernian Calendar Converter, which was written by Brett Middleton of the Fuzzy Physics Institute for converting between Denis and surface time. Tonight's story is about the events as told from the game of Riven. The only spoiler will be in the story surrounding the game. However, none of the puzzles will have spoilers, for those of you who have not as yet played that game. Now, without further ado, I present tonight's story. As I have told these stories, we have learned about life in the cavern. We learned how the Denis came from their proud roots, seeking to shed their pride, yet pride crept back into their lives. We watched it cause the downfall of their great empire. After the fall, pride lived on. Though Anna, known throughout Denis as Tiana, did her best to raise her young son, Gen, to be a decent person, the fact remained that he blamed her for the fall of the empire, as well as for his father's death. The few short years Gen spent living in the Guild of Books and learning the ways of Denis writing, called Seltav, was enough to plant the seed of pride within him. Fixated on that blame, he viewed his mother's meddling in Denis politics as the root cause of the fall. As such, his mind was closed to any instruction she might give him. Without any guidance, his pride, for what he believed the greatness of Denis to be, grew. We learned of Atris' early years, spent with his grandmother Anna, as she taught him to grow up to be the man he became. We also learned of his teenage years, spent with his father Gen. It took some time, but eventually Atris saw just how mad his father had become, drunk with the idea of power, of ruling over 1,000 ages as a god. We learned of his plans to save Katrin, whom he called Catherine, and the multiverse from his father's machinations. We learned how his grandmother Anna had met Catherine and made their own plans to not only rescue the multiverse, but Atris as well. After trapping Gen on Riven, we saw Atris and Catherine make a home for themselves on Anna's age of Mist. They were married on the 13th day of the 7th month in the Denis year of 9431, January 17, 1776. After a few years, Achenar, then Cyrus, was born. Anna helped them raise their boys. Atris and Catherine kept writing ages, attempting to perfect their mastery of the art. When Anna passed away in the Denis year of 9441, 1786 AD on the surface, she was 91 years old. Her death had a deep impact on everyone she left behind. Atris and Catherine became withdrawn, and Achenar and Cyrus, without due parental guidance, allowed their own behavior to spiral out of control, to the point where they tried to get rid of their parents. After having been asked by Atris to help trap his father and rescue Catherine, we watched as a stranger began to explore the age of Riven, and we noted the various changes to the age since Atris had been there last. This week, we will learn about rebellion, revolt, and punishment. As we have learned, Gen had his faults, The greatest of these, which was his delusion, due to the nature of his Denis birth and his abilities to create descriptive books, that he was a god. His being outsmarted by his son and Catherine did not cause him to pause and be introspective regarding his behavior. In fact, if anything, his behavior worsened. Unfortunately, there was no one to bear the brunt of his wrath other than the Rivanese. Just as on his 37th age, before he edited the book and changed the destination age in the process, the residents of that unfortunate age lived in fear of him. Sure, those who were fortunate to be in the guilds that he had set up had an easier time of it than did the remainder of the Rivanese. Still, no one was exempt from his anger and punishment. Gen even had some working as his guards. This was probably through conscription, as I do not believe he had many volunteers. Still, we'll never know for sure. Obviously, the guards only carried out his orders out of fear rather than any sense of duty or loyalty. In order to keep the fear in place, he constructed a gallows of sorts. Well, I seriously doubt he actually helped with its construction. More than likely, he ordered the Rivanese to build it. There was a rather large and carnivorous fish that lived in the waters of Riven, known as a wark. The gallows was constructed over a portion of the inlet from the sea. The condemned person would be suspended over the water and fed to a summoned wark. He probably viewed the warks as his personal pets. To find out how to summon a wark, well, you'll just have to play the game. Exactly when this gallows was constructed, we do not know. Eventually, some of the Rivanese grew tired of Gen's authoritarian and autocratic rule. A group formed that called themselves the Moiety. After a while, the moiety adopted the shape of one of the 5 huge daggers that Catherine had written into the age during her rescue of Atris, as their symbol. They came to believe that Atris, a true god, had stripped away Gen's power and chosen Catherine to be his divine consort. They became rebels against Gen, and dwelt in a network of caves from which they would emerge to sabotage construction or steal food, wearing ritual costumes which frightened those still under Gen's rule. Their symbol was the moiety dagger that stood near the star fisher, taken as a holy symbol since it was, quote, created, close quote, by Catherine against Gen. They believed that one day Catherine would return to overthrow Gen and bring them to paradise. 30 years after she left, Catherine did return, unsuspecting of her messianic role, and as a result of her being duped by her sons in the effort to get rid of her. However the means of her arrival, it emboldened the moiety nonetheless. She ended up writing a new age for them, which they called Te. This new age became the rebels' base of operations in their attacks against Gen's interests. Please join us next week as we learn of Gen's ingenuity. The end. And thank you all for coming tonight, and to those of you watching at home. And time to end this story right now.